Hello and a very warm welcome to the Green Bean. My name is Katie, and in these videos I like sharing snippets of my creative process. Lately I've been doing a lot of deep dives into specific crafts or projects, be it spinning or knitting or sewing. This is a more general episode. I'm going to give you a quick flavour of a few different things that have been going on in my studio lately. I've got some painting, an update on my knitting and on my spinning as well. And of course I will take you out for a walk with me and my little dog Jack out on Dartmoor. I've still been doing a lot of painting since I last shared with you. You can see that I finished the mushrooms I was working on in the last studio chat, and I've started a new piece that I was a bit nervous about at first, but I'm really enjoying it. So it's here, this page of, hopefully at this point it's obvious that it's going to be a rainbow of mushrooms, and it was really important to me for this piece to choose real mushrooms rather than just paint kind of abstract invented mushrooms. These are all specific species that can be found in the UK. Not all of them that I've seen in real life, sadly, but I was just thinking how fun it would be to paint a rainbow of mushrooms, and do we have enough different coloured species here in the UK? And we do. So this has been a really lovely thing to work on. I've been really enjoying the process. I love painting with gouache on black paper. I really love how the colour leaps forward and brings these mushrooms to life. My plan for this illustration, like many of the mushroom paintings I'm doing at the moment, is to turn it into stickers and or washi tape. And as I mentioned in my recent newsletter, I'm always a bit nervous about sharing work that's in process, work that's not finished, because I'm wary of expectations, both my own and other people's, because I've experienced creative burnout in the past, and I'm always afraid that for one reason or another work isn't going to come to fruition on the timescale I want it to. So I'm a bit nervous even showing this to you in its half-finished state when I'm really happy with it. But I have kind of made a decision to try and be more open and honest about what goes on in my studio. That was always my intention when I started making these videos, and it's kind of drifted ever so slightly away from that as I've got more and more nervous about expectations, and I'm trying to kind of consciously slow down and go back to the intention I had when I really started making these videos, which was to share my creative process, ups and downs, the good bits and the hard bits. At the moment, I'm in a really good bit and I'm in a really good flow with these paintings. As I was painting the big sheet of rainbow mushrooms, just to kind of empty my paintbrush and play with the excess paints, I started also painting a page of the same mushroom species but small, and I actually love how these are turning out even more than I love the large ones. They're just randomly sprinkled on the page at the moment, but I can see myself assembling them and putting them together into some kind of repeating pattern. It would be so brilliant to have rainbow mushrooms on a fabric. I'm unfortunately not at the stage where I have a budget to produce fabric for this autumn to go with this mushroom event that I'm gearing up towards, so it would have to be probably something to consider for next year. But I'm just really enjoying working on this piece, and for now just going to try and sink into the process and see where it goes. Now, something funny happened after I recorded that segment about my mushroom paintings. Is I just got into my painting, got into a flow, forgot to switch the camera on at any point, and basically finished this rainbow painting. I was planning to show you much more of the process, but I forgot to switch the camera on and document it. So here I am, just adding the finishing touches to this piece, and I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. when it comes to knitting, I've been pretty exclusively working away on my Mithril jumper, which I talked about recently. I haven't made a huge amount of progress because I misread the chart at least twice and had to rip back, but still I think I've put a couple of inches on it and seen more of this beautiful cable pattern emerge since I last showed it to you. I just can't stop knitting it. I'm really enjoying this yarn and pattern combination. I'll briefly recap in case you haven't seen the previous episode. This is the Nightingale jumper by Norah Gaughan from an issue of Pom Pom magazine, and I'm using a yarn called Mithril by Stansborough, which is the very fibre that was used to weave the cloaks in the Lord of the Rings movies. So it's a very special yarn indeed for the story. It's also a very special yarn in terms of its texture. I would love this even if it wasn't connected to my favourite mythology. The breed is Stansborough Grey. It's a exclusive, that's not the right word, it's a unique breed distinct to that particular flock, but it is derived from Gotland, and the fibre is very reminiscent of Gotland to me. It's obviously it's grey, naturally grey, and this beautiful kind of lustrous silvery colour with a lovely drape. You can see how it's draping in the knitted piece as well. This is the back of the jumper and the only piece that I've knitted so far. Probably after I've done this for a bit of a rest from the cables for my brain, which is clearly struggling with the chart given the mistakes I've made, and for my hands, I'm probably going to knit a sleeve next before I continue with the front body piece. But yeah, fair bit of progress on this and continuing to really enjoy knitting it. Let's talk spinning and start by saying thank you to everyone who left feedback on my recent spinning episode, helping me to decide which fibre to spin for my first garment project. After much deliberation, I have chosen Barn Owl, which, if you'll remember, was the smaller quantity of the two. And knowing that this won't quite be enough to make a full garment by itself, I'm going to also spin a small quantity of plain Zwartblood's fibre, which will be a rich dark brown, intending to use that for the ribbing, so a neckband, cuffs and a hem as well. Special thanks to Hedgehog, who is a viewer who reached out to me on Instagram to tell me the fibre blend. They had also bought this fibre from John Arbon when it was released as a special, and they not only were able to confirm the fibre blend but show me their finished hand spun, and I think that was the thing that tipped me over the edge into choosing this one. So before I spin it, I have a bit of plying to do, and I've got show and tell, which relates to how I'm going to choose to spin this. So when I last spoke about spinning, I was spinning this singles, which is Devonia from John Arbon Textiles, and I've also spun this singles, and you may or may not remember that I was spinning these two lots of the same fibre with two different approaches. So this light one was spun traditional worsted, short forward draw, and this dark one was spun from the fold. And my idea was to ply them both the same so that I can have a direct comparison of what the two drafting methods do on the same fibre. Now, as it happens, this Barn Owl blend is a very similar blend of fibres to Devonia. I think it includes Exmoor Blueface, Blueface Leicester, a bit of Swaddlers and Wensleydale. So it's going to spin up very similar to Devonia. So with that in mind, my intention with these singles is just to do a quick chain ply on them. I definitely want my Barn Owl to be spun as a 3-ply, probably a traditional 3-ply, because my chain plying skills are, they leave a little bit to be desired, but it's a new technique to me, so I'm still learning. So rather than avoid it, I'm going to chain ply both of these singles and see how they turn out. In the meantime, I remembered that I had a skein I've forgotten to show you, which was also from those two Devonia fibres. These ones I drafted the two fibres, the two tops together to make a spun marl. So when you make a traditional marl, you would spin singles of two different colours and get a marl by plying those two together, or more colours, it doesn't just have to be two. In this case, I held the two coloured tops side by side and drafted carefully, trying to get a little bit of both colours in the singles. So it created this more kind of heathered, textured marl rather than a humbug barber pole looking marl, if that makes any sense at all. I'm pretty pleased with how this one came out. I'm surprised that the dark green ended up looking much more black in this. So it is, it's a higher contrast than I was expecting. I was expecting it overall to read as a mid-green, whereas actually I think it reads as a little bit black and yellow, like a wasp or a bumblebee, but I'm okay with that. It was just an experiment, and it's going into the green blanket, which I think I might almost be ready to start. I'm not sure. I feel like the amount of hand-spun greens I have is a great starting point, but it's probably not quite enough for a blanket. But anyway, for now, I'm pretty done with spinning green. So once I have plied up these two Devonia singles, I will make a decision on how I intend to spin the Barn Owl, whether it will be traditional worsted or spun from the fold, and be ready to start my garment spinning project. thank you so much for joining me for this episode of The Green Bean. I am really loving making and sharing these studio chat episodes alongside more variety of videos. It's nice for me to have different kinds of videos to work on, some where I just get to be chatty and share what's going on, and others where I get to be more detailed and really dive into a project in more depth than I get to share when I'm doing an episode that touches on multiple different projects. So I hope you're enjoying the variety of videos too. And if you are, and enjoying the fact that they are becoming more frequent, that's something I'm trying out to see if it's sustainable for me and my work. Please consider joining me on Patreon. I couldn't make these videos at all without financial support, so huge thanks if you're one of the folks who supports this work over there. I offer various bonuses to patrons in return for financial investment. They include early access to these videos and the chance to watch them without adverts, as well as an extra episode every month and discounts on products in my online shop. So once again, thank you to my lovely patrons who make this possible. And that's all. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye.